You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to KASC, the Blaze 1260 AM, as we are joined by the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Dusty, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's cool. It's cool to talk to you. I mean, I know we're talking a lot about different things, but my book is out there, and been all morning talking to radio. So I'm doing well, man. It's cool.
I think the first question that's on everybody's mind, and this is really recent news, is can you tell us about the situation with TNA?
Like I said, the book is going good. I'm just having a great time selling it, and there's no situation there. I was a talent with them, and I had Rhodes for a while, and they want to move in a direction that I don't want to move in, and so I just resigned and stepped down and, still a talent, kept my contract, back 100%. This is my pay-per-view coming up this weekend. Everything is cool. It's very good. It's a good move. I'm working on a sitcom and a movie and the book and motivational speaking, a lot of stuff. So to tell you the truth, I didn't have a lot of time to put up with just something that I didn't believe in. So that's why I did it. So, and they understood that, So
I guess
basically, really nothing's changed except for what was going on behind the scenes, and So I'm hoping that they would do really well. Hope we do well this weekend on this pay-per-view too. So that's really the scoop. There's a scoop, but there's no scoop. I felt our differences couldn't be straightened out. So that was it.
Tell us about the book, The Reflections of an American Dream, out in stores now. I've read most of it, and I have to say that it's pretty impressive, and it's different for a professional wrestling book.
Well, I wanted, guys, I wanted to make it different. I mean, I'm a different guy. It was a different era, and I always try to reinvent myself every day when I get up. Something that I want to do that's different. I want to, reinvent Dusty Rhodes, The American Dream. Mm-hmm. And with the book, I said it's time just to put some reflections in there and let the fans that have supported me for all this time see some of the good sides, the bad sides, the funny sides, and how I feel about my children, how I feel about my family, how I feel about Dustin and my ex-partner Murdoch, and like George Steinbrenner was a great find as far as doing my follow. We've been friends for a long time. He's the most impressive sports owner figure in probably our last 2 decades. So there's a lot in there for the fan, but there's a lot in there for that was one of the reasons I didn't want to put a wrestling photo on the cover with Sports Publishing. We talked about this, and I fought over this for a long time. Or one on the back. I wanted you to walk through the airport or go through a bookstore, and if you wasn't a fan, maybe you know the name, you look up and say, "Wow, man, this looks pretty neat here." Just the old wrestling cover, that you see in most of them. I didn't want it to be a wrestling book. I wanted it to be my book, and I think it is. So most feedback has been, pretty cool.
Actually, it's a very cool cover. It looks like the front of a movie, a Western movie.
Yeah, we had done that, with the lights from an airplane type lighting in the back and designed it to look, to where they knew it was me, and I just always really liked that picture, so that's why I used it. The one on the back is just a little smiley face. Shows how handsome and that I really am,
Let's just talk a little bit about Florida Championship Wrestling. Like I said yesterday, we had Bob and Pam Allen on. They are the daughter and son-in-law of Gordon Soley. What made Florida Championship Wrestling so ahead of its time and so different than the other companies and territories at the time?
I think it was you had great talent. Mm-hmm. With other territories back in that era would close down, and the winter would be real strong. A lot of guys would come down south, Bockwinkel, Ray Stevens, and we were able to get a lot of talent through there. All the talent came through Florida. We called it Tampa, the Fort Heffley Army, the Madison Square Garden of the South. Mm-hmm. The mentor, Eddie Graham, was far exceeded anything in our industry. He gave me an opportunity at a young age to create some things that had never been done. The last tango in Tampa, the different shows named differently, and gave me an opportunity to kind of step over that line of let's get a wrist lock and a headlock for an hour and see what happens. And so that all the things go to him. And then Gordon Foley and myself were paralleling, and I don't even know if that's a Rhodism or a word, but Howard Cosell and Ali during that same time. So in them two genres, it was the same identical thing, but two different sports. And Gordon was the best to ever call the game, except for maybe Jim Ross. I mean, to call a big game. But Gordon was truly the mentor as far as announcers go. And I was this scrubby kid from Austin, Texas, this plumber's son that didn't have a great body, but they believed in me, and they took me to the dance, and it was great.
You just mentioned Jim Ross. There's been rumors recently that you've been contacted to be part of the WWE Hall of Fame next year. Any comments you'd like to make about that?
That would be a great honor. I think any endeavor, whether you win an Academy Award or you're in the Hall of Fame of any way, shape, or form, is cool. So we just have to see what happens. Me and Superstar Billy Graham talked a lot about it, this year before this one, and I was doing the thing with TNA, and my loyalties, are there. Mm-hmm. And we need this product. We need this other company to grow. We need it to happen. So. And I have a vision of it happening, and they have a vision of it happening, and the two have not, didn't really meet, as I said earlier in the conversation.
Mm-hmm. We had DDP on. He said that you ripped the WWE and Vince back when he made the American Dream polka dots gimmick work. What were your initial impressions of what they wanted you to be in the WWE?
Well, my initial impressions, as I said earlier, are not early to you guys on a private line of conversation, is the WWE, which is the WWF. Obviously, my era was, 74 all the way through the 80s there. Superstar Billy Graham, the Garden, Vince Sr. alive. That was Dusty Rhodes in New York City and the WWF. That's the Hall of Fame stuff. The polka dots was just a gimmick. It was just an outfit that, when the marketing came to play, you needed some type of marketing deal. It's still the American Dream. In a year and a half of the time that I was there with Vince Jr. in the WWE, I made a tremendous amount of money, and I enjoyed myself a tremendous amount. So the young kids say, well, they only see that part, but if they look at the tapes and they go back, I think Flair had the 3 DVDs, whatever it was called. It should have been a tribute to Dusty Rhodes because we dominated the DVDs. I wonder if he's going to send me any money. Do you guys know? Is he going to send me anything for that?
We had Flair on the
hostel with James.
Yeah. The check's in the mail, right?
Yeah. He and I wouldn't expect any Christmas cards from him. We had a bit of a confrontation on the air that was pretty interesting. So.
Well, was it really? I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
He's what you see. That's what you get, bud. Yeah. So.
What are your memories of working with Sweet Sapphire?
She was an older woman at the time. She was in her 50s.
Uh-huh.
And we were looking for someone to go with me for this American Dream, Americana guy, the common man, working hard for the man, and all that stuff. And I had a vision of tall, lanky, slender, hooker-looking woman from right off the street, that would just soon as scratch your eyes out to look at you. And Vince had a vision of the fans sitting on the front row, just really getting off and dancing. And his vision was right. She was tremendous. Juanita Wright, and she was around the guys most of her career in St. Louis. She would help out at the airport, give rides to the guys, and so she was around it, and she was a blessing. I know she went for quite a few months before she finally came to me and said, what do I do with these checks, I said, well, you need to cash them, hon, you know what I mean? You need to cash them or write them over to me. But she was just, she was the common woman that had a great heart, and so with very fond memories of that era I have.
You mentioned Ric Flair a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Did you were mentioned quite a bit in Flair's book. Did you get a chance to read it, and if so, what did you think of it?
I didn't read it because when I was in the process of kind of putting my stuff together, so I didn't want to go and read a bunch. I'll get around to reading it, but they were turning them out so fast there. When Cactus became such a, his book, the first one is always the best. I'm talking about biggest seller. And that was the first one, and so that hit hard, and he had that machine up there behind it to promote it. They were smart enough, as they are, obviously, to say, okay, let's just steamroll these out, let's cookie cut these out, change them a little, things out. We have the machine to make them look like their best sellers. And that's what happened. So, and I didn't want to really, to get into his book and or anything while I was doing mine, you know what I mean? Because whatever anybody writes about you, it doesn't matter, except to me, is the fact that they're writing about you. And if so I don't really care. I hear things about it, but no, I did not read it. I didn't read Harley's book. I didn't read Triple H's book. I didn't read, none of them. I didn't read any of them. I read a few pages of Cactus's first book, you know what I mean? But, so, and I was busy doing that and busy working on a screenplay and I'm really into that, getting this movie done right now. That's another reason that taking a lot of time with TNA behind the scenes is I'd rather be doing some other stuff right now.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that screenplay you're writing?
Well, the screenplay, there's two of them, but we're going to shoot one in November. We're going to start shooting in North Florida, and it's I'm directing, editing, writing. This is another dream besides being an author that I had. So I want to, I want to take it to Sundance. I want to get it into some of the film festivals and see, just get a look and just see how good it is, or what it is. It's a Southern movie. It's about a town that's surrounded by the one water tower says Bulldogs AA state football champs. Just like every Friday night town that I grew up in Texas, that whole town was around this high school, this football team, and the head cheerleader, and she's really beautiful, and she's missed everything, and she's being stalked by what they believe to be their cross-county rival, and come to find out that it's somebody else. So you'll have to see the movie to know, but it's somebody else, and it gets pretty violent and turns into pretty violent scene towards the end, but it's just a good old Southern movie. It's not Smoking the Bandit, but it's somewhere in there.
Sounds very interesting. In the mid-'90s, you did some color commentary, and you mentioned Rhodesisms before, and I love those. Clubberin and all those things. I love that stuff. Any chance we'll ever see you return to the booth?
That's a good question. I was talking about that yesterday with TNA, and the Rhodesisms, on DustyRhodesWrestling.com, which is my website, you can get all the Rhodesisms off that. You go there, there's a book of Rhodesisms. Mm-hmm. But the color commentating, to me, is something I really enjoy doing, and the fans really enjoy that. And why we haven't tapped that, or I should have probably put myself in that position when I was writing. I should have wrote myself in that position with TNA, and then I would be there. But hopefully with the new TV time and everything, we can go back and revisit of me doing some color with them, which is something I really, really enjoy. And it's funny you asked that. We were talking about it yesterday when we were discussing this change and what direction, we wanted to go, and that came up. So, maybe something will happen with that. Maybe I'll do color this weekend at the pay-per-view. Who knows?
Well, that'd be tremendous. In the mid-'90s or later '90s, you were part of the NWO. It seemed like, you were getting involved in matches. You were dropping elbow on Sting and managing Scott Hall. Was there any plans for you to step back in the ring?
No, it was a situation to where at that time Bischoff had just anybody that was any name at all was going to become a member of the NWO. And the NWO was like that horseman thing. They were not all, the people loved bad people. They loved the bad guys, and they thought it was hip and cool to be a member of this. So nothing really came of it. Didn't snowball. The first night that we did it in Ohio, I'll never forget it, when me and Scott Hall and I turned on Larry Zbyszko. It was deafening. I mean, you knew it had got over like crazy. But it wasn't to make me a bad guy. It was just that era that we were going through. I enjoyed doing that too, but there was really nothing to it. It was more on the outside of what you guys that were watching thought it was. But no, it was there was nothing there. I think that the one thing that is still there, even as as old as we both look, but I still think there's a spot for that one more match with me and Flair on one of their pay-per-views, or me and Flair on the TNA pay-per-view. So I just think there's still interest in that one last time.
Are you still friends with Rick?
No, not at all. No.
Were you ever friends with Rick?
No, not at all. None. Zero.
Wait, so you were never friends with him?
No, we respect each other in the ring and what we've done, and there's a respect there. And even though if he would say something bad, he kept coming back to that respect thing. People had told me, but there's a respect there. But it's business. Business is business with me and him. And it's not like the relationship I have with Terry Funk. Terry is a violent relationship in the ring, really is. And it continues on to these days, even though he's into his 60s. It continued on, but there is so much respect outside of with me and him, like the other part doesn't exist, but it really does. And as older he gets, you got to watch him all the time. I was in the match with him in Gaffney the other night, and that sellout, we raised money for the high school, but the people were just like the old days. But if you're not watching him, you get hit in the back of the head with a chair, you get hit in the leg, he's throwing crap in there that people have, handbags, and I mean, it's nuts, So, but outside of that, I have a tremendous relationship with him.
Our friend Chris Yandick, who's a friend of the show, mentioned to me the other day that there's a promoter in Florida who's dying to put together a match between you and Hulk Hogan. Any truth to that, or do you know of anything?
That would be cool, but Hulk's just got a new hip.
Right.
And he looks great. I mean, he always looked good. I mean, he was Yellowfinger when in my book when my era set the table, Yellowfinger came into play, the industry changed. So that I believe that match has passed us. I mean, there's nothing. I don't think there's nothing there that could. I wouldn't mind being partners with him on a house show or an arena show somewhere. That would be pretty cool. But no, the match with me and him. That's ran its course. That one we missed.
You've always really of a lot of old guys that he just called you an old guy.
I didn't mean like that. I meant veteran.
Yeah. No, a lot of the legendary older guys. I like that.
Yeah, yes, that's what I meant. When a lot of the veterans go through, some of them seem out of place. Dusty Rhodes has always seemed relevant to the time period. Obviously, you were involved in the NWO. You were always, you're always a staple. You're always in the mix. But obviously, during that time, you weren't in the WWF. You were in WCW. Can I ask your opinions on the Attitude Era?
Of what?
Of the late '90s in WWF when they were very risque.
Well, all of that came off of what? That came off of, that came off real simply of the NWO thing. That's where that came from, and it was a spinoff. Right. So and so that era has to be known as of that NWO, bad boy. Let's go to Guns N' Roses type, look and gangland, warfare.
Yeah.
And the same happened after the Horsemen were so popular, and had such a run. Remember the Four Horsemen? Then every place that you went, they tried to put together four guys, and call them something else. So and it does that. It changes like that. It's our industry changes and a lot of people copy things. So it was a bad boy era. It was like, let's go against the grain, And but it's like you just said with this question. With me, I try to reinvent myself every day, and I'm able to mix, even at my age, in with hip-hop or country or whatever's going down.
Yeah.
You mentioned the NWO heavily. Did you have any creative input into the NWO?
No.
No.
No. That was Bischoff and Hogan and them guys, and so that was just it, man. And once it started to fall into place, it was just like taking candy from a baby. I mean, it was just amazing. I was at that point in time, I had moved to the role of counsel to Eric is all. There would be meetings, and he would ask me what I thought, and I would set in on some writing stuff and created some characters. Berlin created some different characters for him. Took him to the dance, and then the committee. Here we go again with the committee. But the committee took over, and they went on. But I was more or less just his guy behind the scenes, handling Dallas's stuff and doing that. And that wasn't a bad gig, because I thought Eric was pretty visionary at the time.
After falling out with WCW, you did work some ECW shows. I see TNA today and ECW at the time having a little bit in common as regards to a TV deal. What are your expert opinions, though, on why ECW ended up closing? Was it strictly because they couldn't get a TV deal?
And that's gonna happen with us at TNA if we do not get a TV deal. I mean, it's that simple. You can't, even though it's great to be on Fox Sports Net at 4 o'clock in the evening, that ain't conducive to doing big numbers on pay-per-view. So the pay-per-views have been tremendous. But ECW, here's the deal: they were so violent, so out of the box, so almost Deadwoodish. HBO's Deadwoodish. If you watch one of Deadwood's,
yes,
y'all watch that.
That's
pretty raw. Okay, so they were that, and to go on national TV, you have to take that product of ECW and completely redo it and cut it in half, and then it does not become. It's not ECW you're getting. It's not what their core fans knew. It's a cleaned up version because of television, unless it was late night cable or pay-per-view where you were able to use the verbiage and the colorful language and stuff that they did.
Right.
Yeah, it was a catch-22, really.
Right. That's a good deal. The catch-22. That's cool. I like that. I'm gonna write that down. And you said that. Who's calling me? Oh, y'all are calling me. I'm here.
No, not for me.
No, that must be let's see, Austin, Texas. That's my daughter. She was a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. She can wait. Anyway, I'm walking out of the room because I'm irritating me and y'all. So what else?
Okay, Eric Dickinson.
What?
There's so much talk about you and your booking status with TNA, but you mentioned all the things that you needed to do with TNA, like getting a better TV deal. What's Dusty Rhodes' ideal time slot?
Two slots that I would love to have. Okay, I'd love to have Saturday at 6 o'clock.
The old Saturday night spot, right?
Yeah, the old Saturday night spot, or Sunday. Sunday around the same time, but the football is really bad. But my ideal spot, if I was in a war, and I'm going to go to war with him, and I'm in control, and it's my ball, and I have my staff, and I have these guys, everything's in place. Let's put it just like my Starcade card. Everybody's 25 years old. Everything's in place. Then, and only then, am I going to go head up with him on Monday night. That's my ideal spot. Head up.
I think that's most every wrestling fan's dream, to see the war start over again.
Yeah, I want to. That to me, that's that's the battle. That's my vision. That vision's not there. I mean, as far as of what we keep going back to the TNA, but it's not that big a deal because it was a 4.5 month short time deal that I really stepped in for Jeff at the time.
Right.
And and it wasn't my ball, so it's not my deal. If it's Crockett era, or Eddie Graham, Florida era, or CBS era, and it's my ball, I mean, I want to head up. Why not? Why wouldn't you want head up? Why go on Sunday and face the NFL? Because Vince kicks NBA's ass now on cable. He has bigger numbers than they do for the NBA championships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's there, buddy. He knows. But I think he loves the fight too. But you can't. I'm not going to go to battle at that time slot with a committee of people that are not mine, and I don't feel have that same vision that I do. It's not like me being a dictator saying, "Hey, I just want to do this myself." That's not That's not it. I use people's ideas, and I want to talk to them. But at the end, it's my movie. It's going to be my movie, and nobody else is going to direct it.
Yep.
So, you know, it's like when John Wayne ran John Huston off the set of the Alamo. That was his mentor, but he couldn't. He thought he could just come on and do it. That's an old story that I don't know where I got that from. Just came out.
You talked about the Monday night slot, and for a while there was talk that FX, which I think would be the ideal network for wrestling,
Yeah,
because
that'd be really cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I heard they were interested in TNA for a possible Monday night slot. I mean, was that just a rumor, or was there any truth at all to that?
I was not, privy to that. I wasn't. I wasn't in that section of the TNA to know that at that time. So, but to me, I thought just what you said. I thought they would be perfect. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean that's like the perfect entertainment.
That's a good call there, bud. That's a good call. They really would.
Yeah.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that it's different booking, or it was different booking for TNA than it was for Crockett and the old days. What's the major differences?
God, it's not booking anymore. I mean, I was the writer, the head writer, and because booking to me is you're running town 7 days a week like we did, like Vince is doing. You're booking guys in all these towns. That's where the name Booker comes from. In this genre that we have here, it's just TV. You're just an executive producer or producer of television shows. So you're not a booker per se. There's a big difference in that. And the difference of then is the ball was turned over to me to win or lose, and I had a contractual deal that gave me an opportunity, time to do it. And then the difference here is that we're searching for a TV time. We're searching for an answer. And everybody's trying really hard, and they all have an idea of how it should be. And if they're not on the vision of the guy that's doing it, then they should committee up or do something else. Because I'm not going to stay with it if I know they're not behind it. You know what I'm saying?
I got you.
Yeah.
When I don't need to, I say, okay, I'm going to stay there. I'll oversee this committee and stay here and keep my mouth shut and make my money. Well, I'm not. I'm too old for that. You know what I mean? If I can't make money doing something I enjoy, then it's no big deal. So and it's of course it's a big deal in the fans' eye, or they see it or they read it for a couple of days here, but then it'll be over. It's not that big a deal. I'm still there. I'm a talent, whatever. I'm the DOA, director of authority. So and so it's going to be fine. Hopefully we get it straight. Everything goes right.
Just a few more questions. Just a few.
The recent lockdown pay-per-view with TNA and the amount of cage matches. First off, was this your idea? And second, what was your honest take of the all-cage match pay-per-view?
Of all of them?
Yeah.
And I've said this before, but it was not my idea. But once I get, an assignment to do, I'm going to create this. If somebody else has this movie idea, I'm going to make it really cool. And I thought we did. We made the best out of it. We took a year and a half or 2 years worth of major wrestling, what they call angles, and put them all into one night. And what made it so I thought successful was that the guys brought it home. Each and every match was different. Each and every match had something for the fans. And it ended up with AJ and Abyss, and they closed the door and brought it home. I mean, all credit goes to them, every bit of it. It was just, and I told them that in the meeting. It's out of my hands. It's now in your hands. It's 5:30 in the evening. Here we are. Let's bring it home, and they did. So I applaud them.
Just a few more questions for you, then we'll let you go. I have a question for you. It's an interesting one. Sent it from the forums. They want to know your opinion on the internet, with people like Kevin Nash and Kid Cash going on the internet and perhaps saying things that maybe bookers or people in charge would not want them to say about the company.
Not me. Doesn't bother me at all. I think the internet is there for one reason, and that is to sell your wares. Controversy does business. Controversy has guys just like you that just mentioned it, to where I wouldn't mention it or I wouldn't have said nothing about it. So the only, it's cool, man. Tabloids, God, they're great. I love it. I love to see the tabloids with the...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, cool.
Chuckster?
Victor.
Yeah.
I'm just actually curious, what it's like to work under the Panda Energy Corp umbrella. Specifically, Dixie Carter seems to be very hands-on with the TNA product.
She's been good to me. Let me just put it like that. I've never had a cross word with her, you know. So I think that she really has a drive and a passion to make this thing successful. And I really hope that she does. I have nothing bad to say about Bob Carter and me are old Texas buds, like, you know. So, you know, it's pretty cool. Just,
I don't think there's a wrestling fan out there that wouldn't love to see TNA make it big.
I know, and I believe that, and I think that's important. And hopefully they can get enough people in the office to spread the ideas around and do what vision they have of it, you know. So that's cool.
Well, Dusty, before I ask my question, I want to say that I agree with you totally on the committee thing with too many chefs, because I mean, I think in the past we've all seen that the successful promotion, WWF, Vince McMahon has always had the final say. So I think it's always yeah. But on to my question, we had Jimmy Hart on the other day, and we were talking to him, and he couldn't answer a lot of our questions because he's really not on the business side of TNA. We were hoping maybe you would be able to enlighten us.
Yeah.
As the booker of a federation, you know, your goal is to expose your product to as many people as possible. Are you guys going to run house shows in the near future?
No, it's not in the near future. I think the first thing on everybody's mind at TNA, in the marketing department and everything, is marketing the product and getting a better time slot, getting a deal with TV so they can move forward. Otherwise, there is no movement forward. Without that done, our company, it just can't exist without that. So to run arena shows right now would be in that category of the independent guy out there doing, you know, 200, 300, 400 people, you know, losing our ass, losing our money, because that's TV. Television drives the arena show. That's what drives that show in the arena to do business. And so I can honestly say, no. No, there's no plans. None.
Well, this is the last question before we do just a few word associations with you, but Ric Flair got mad at this question, amongst many questions he got mad at me about, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to hard sell your book. Why should wrestling fans buy your book?
The wrestling fans should buy the book to really understand what our industry was like for a guy like me, and how I grew up in the mafioso-type, territorial, ran by godfathers. You didn't talk about wrestling being phony. You didn't talk about these other things. You fought for everything you got. And to see that this guy that looks like most of America, that's not trim and slim and not muscle bound, and could drive the arena business with just one word from his mouth, and see how this guy, as a child growing up, retch out from this east side of Austin, Texas, to find this American dream that he heard about and was told about, and then make it come true and stand in Madison Square Garden with millions of thousands of people watching, and headline and look out at on horseback outside New York and the barricades, and says the garden sold out, superstar Billy Graham and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, tonight, flashing. And you think, man, this thing, Babe Ruth was down in this city, Springsteen sold out this building, Bobby Dylan sold out this, and here I am, and just to sit there and look out the window of a limousine, knowing to where you didn't know what a limousine was when you grew up, and then knowing the love I have for my children and what dreams I have for them, and why I'm still on the road today, and what makes somebody like me go to these buildings and 35 people sitting out there, not 35,000, and what makes you still go, and that great ability to give back to the fans that brought you to the dance, and being able to, knowing that you could write a pay-per-view as well as anybody, and being just being part of something special. And that's what the business is to me. And then the stories of me and the Giant. What great stories. Nobody else has any stories like that. The Bordello in New Orleans, the race down the streets on the horse pull carts with me and Andre the Giant. I mean, you can't make them up. I mean, they really happen. And Murdoch and the sadness I felt for him, and the dedication, and the forward by George Steinberg, the mixture of this American dream's life put down in reflection is worth the price of admission. If you've never watched a wrestling match or not, it's still worth that book. There you go.
Tremendous. Can we just give you a few word associations? If you have a story, you can feel free to share the story. If you have a one-word answer, that's fine too.
Cool.
First name on the list is old nemesis of yours from Florida Championship Wrestling, Kevin Sullivan.
The devil. I mean, people actually believed he was the devil at the time. He had the golden spike and the purple haze, and we had a tremendous run. Probably my favorite era, as far as the long run era, was Kevin Sullivan, and quickly probably one of the sharpest tacks in the box in our business. And he learned from my mentor, Eddie Graham, and he learned from me, and I learned from him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, God bless Kevin Sullivan. We made a lot of money together.
How about a guy that a lot of people think is going to be coming to TNA soon, Matt Hardy?
That's it. Just, I don't know. I love Jeff Hardy a lot. Matt, I haven't seen that much, so I think he would fit in great, you know. And I'd have to, you know a little bit more about him as far as I didn't watch him that much when he was at WWE.
How about AJ Styles?
Phenomenal. One word. Phenomenal.
How about your former daughter-in-law, Terry Reynolds?
Former daughter-in-law. That's the way to put it. Farmer is the key word.
How about Scott Hall?
My bud. Sometimes a tortured soul looking for a way to get out of the wilderness. I'm always there if he needs a call. I'm always there with a hand. I like Scott Hall a lot.
Somebody you just mentioned.
Nature Boy Ric Flair.
Money. The best era in our business in the 80s, mid-80s, without a doubt. 7 weeks, 7 Broadways, 7-hour draws in 1 week, me and Flair. Big memories.
How about Dick Murdoch? You mentioned him earlier.
My brother. My brother. Miss him very much.
Road Warrior Hawk?
Brother of the road. A brother in a different term, but we were brothers of the road. We understood each other. He had demons, and he fought them all his life.
One more sad one. How about Miss Elizabeth?
Beautiful. I had occasion to only be associated with her off and on, very briefly.
Right.
And the night in Toronto at the WrestleMania was the only time that we were actually in the ring together. You know, but just memories of her being very beautiful.
Just a few more for you. How about this person has described how much she loves you over the years? How about Missy Hyatt?
Missy, to me, and I know she's not from there, but Texas girl, you know, Daisy Dukes, Jane Mansfield, Marilyn Monroe, all wrapped into one, you know.
Yeah, I gotcha.
How about Paul
She
Heyman?
really got pissed at me one night.
She did?
When I had Abdullah throw in the water, the horse trough.
Oh, yeah.
On TV, remember that? She came down the hall and I was laughing and she didn't know it. She was really pissed, but she was cool about it. Paul Heyman?
Yes.
Yeah.
A student of mine, very sharp about the industry, learned some good lessons, but most of all, at a time when I needed him, in a couple of months period of time, he took me into ECW, paid me well, asked no questions, when nobody else would touch me.
3 names left for you. Eric Bischoff.
Visionary. I think he'd be in better place if he had his own sitcom or produced it or behind the scenes or whatever. Hollywood, he loves that. Always trying to create shows and stuff. But a visionary. He's one of us.
Absolutely. How about your son, Dustin Rhodes?
Natural. One of the you know, him and Barry Windham were the 2 athletes that I've seen come in our industry that were just completely natural. It became so easy and took a character at the time and revolutionized our industry with it. Really, with the character Goldust, when there was nothing like it anywhere in the world, and he made it happen. And I love him a lot. So.
And the last name for you is Vince McMahon.
Oh, Vinny. I'm trying to comparing him and me together, saying I'm just as sharp as him. Obviously, if I was sharp as him, I'd probably say, okay, I'll work with this committee. But I think that, I don't know, he's done some unbelievable stuff for our industry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't, and he takes care of his boys, and you can't dislike him, you know, and I would love to one more time, you know, in some way, shape, or fashion to probably work for him down the road, and he knows that. But that, I don't think that will ever happen because of our, you know, our egotistical look at each other. You know, we're the same age almost. We grew up together in the industry. I made money for his old man. He made money for me. You know, we got a great love for the business. But it's his ball, as I said earlier, and if it's my ball, then it can't be his ball. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
I got you completely.
A lot of respect, though.
Oh, we really can't thank you enough for spending all this time with us. And check out the book, Reflections of an American Dream.
And don't forget DustyRhodesWrestling.com and Sports Publishing and all them things, guys. And
all right.
Watch us at TNA this weekend. It's going to be cool.
Enjoying what you're hearing? Be sure and check out WrestlingEpicenter.com on social media at Facebook.com/WrestlingEpicenter. On Twitter at James Epicenter. And of course, WrestlingEpicenter.com for 24-hour news updates, our interview archives, and all the other information you've come to expect from the Wrestling Epicenter.
Welcome back to the interactive interview online version. I am back here, joined as always by Mr. James Walsh.
Mr. Money in the Bank.
Mr. Money in the Bank, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. How are you, Mr. Sinalsi?
Mr. Sinalsi's doing good. Big interview with Dusty Rhodes, obviously, since we are the best. We got him immediately after that booking controversy, so we've got this exclusive interview up for everyone out there. So
yes, sir.
Thank you for listening, and
a special thanks to Dusty for joining us.
Yeah, that was great, actually. We, you know, another legend to add to the list, and we're like the legend talkers here instead of legend killers.
Hey, that's a T-shirt idea right there.
That is a T-shirt idea. We should make some T-shirts. Yeah, it was a good interview. He gave some insightful answers. Gave some stuff that I think people are gonna really want to hear.
I mean, and the thing is, when you're doing an interview with somebody as legendary and who has been in the business as long as Dusty Rhodes, you can't really go through like we will with, for example, Jamie Noble, and go back to, you know, the beginning of his career and just, you know, walk it through, because quite frankly, you'd be walking a hell of a long time with Dusty.
Yeah, we we had a mess of questions that a bunch we didn't get to ask because of obviously time constraints. And we had ones that we didn't even put on there because we knew there wouldn't be enough time. But the fact is, Dusty's the kind of guy we can do a second and even a third interview with and still have plenty of stuff left to ask him, because the guy's career, we didn't ask about the Midnight Rider, we didn't ask about the NWA, we didn't ask about any of that stuff. And there's so much more there. But I mean, when you got a guy like him, you know, it's not like when we have like people on again, like young guys, and like, well, what are we going to ask him again? Like if we ever get AJ on, we'll be like, well, we've encompassed a lot of his career. I mean, nothing wrong with that. He's a young guy. He's done a lot, but we've asked him most of that stuff. But with Dusty, it's just like, you know, they just come right out of your head, the questions.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest with you, usually we have a list of questions, and this time I think we did have a list, but I would say about 50% of them just didn't even come from there.
Yeah.
We just kind of said, well, oh, you mentioned this. Well, let me ask you about that.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you about that. Well, let me ask you about that. And I think that's actually more relaxed. I think they like that too, because I think they kind of hint at what they want you to ask them.
Yeah, you don't like. It's not like some interviewers when you're like, you know,
no impression.
The guy will say, hey, I don't like this person for this reason, and then they'll say, and they'll go on to the next question. It's really robotic. A lot of times when I'm listening to interviews, and this is kind of how I make my style off of, and somebody says something, and the interviewer just ignores it. I want the interviewer to dig deep into that subject and, you know, get as deep into the subject as you can, and that's we try to present. So
I agree with you. So, thanks to Dusty, and it's interesting to hear see what's going to happen now with TNA now that Dusty's not booking.
Yeah, it's going to be a transitional period, really.
Well, I mean, it's a young company, and Dusty, he set it on the line, and unfortunately, I think I agree with him. Unless they can get some TV, they're in trouble. You know, and I really want them to succeed. I was, and to a point still am, a TNA fan. But
I think we're all TNA fans. I mean, pretty much most people, especially on the internet, are. They're just not liking where the product has been going. But
well, I mean, and I said it right away. As soon as they stopped doing the Wednesday pay-per-views, and financially, I understand why it was done. But as a fan, the continuity and the progression of the product pretty much got stagnant because, quite frankly, 30 minutes of TV time that you really have, and that's because you have half the show commercials and yes, I mean, you really can't do a lot with 30 minutes in a week.
Well, take a look. Well, I mean, first, in defense, Victory Road, Turning Point, and Final Resolution were all good pay-per-views.
Yes, I think Turning Point
was obviously the height of that. So
Turning Point was the best of those three.
It's not like it can't be done to deliver like hotshot, great paper. And I don't mean hotshot like hybrid booking, but it can be done.
Hybrid.
But like you said, Dusty said a perfect example when he said, you know, the TV sells the arena shows, and to the same point, the TV sells the pay-per-view, and the pay-per-view for most companies is the main point of revenue. The fact is, though, take a look at Impact and then take a look at Raw. I know Raw's not like it was in, '98 when something shocking and new and breathtaking would happen each week, but the fact is, if you miss Raw, you have missed a point in the story.
Yes, I mean, if you didn't watch this week, you would not know why Triple H might not be on next week.
Yeah, I mean, that was a perfect example. As far as TNA, it's like, it's just minor things. And Dusty's right. You can't do that. And what James said, you can't do it with 30 minutes of show. And I still think this FX is the absolute perfect network for professional wrestling. It's got that great mix of entertainment. It's got, you got shows like The Shield, Nip Tuck, that are doing kind of things that wrestling did way back when with these shocking storyline turns and stuff. And
other things they got too, and this is something nobody ever points out. They have very similar programming to UPN. In that, they play Family Guy, they play Fear Factor, they play all that stuff. And, of course, UPN hosts SmackDown for the time being anyway.
Yeah. So, it's an audience that would definitely be into professional wrestling if it was presented. If you give them, say, 2 hours on Monday night or whenever and establish the product, who knows? Look what WCW came off of Nitro. They had the Saturday night programming. It was, it was probably better than Impact, but it certainly wasn't, it wasn't like, but they didn't have anything like that back then. But once they went to Nitro, of course, everything was revolutionized, and that's now the standard you're judged by. So,
absolutely. And Saturday night, it was obviously not on par with WWE's programming, but it was okay. I mean, it was entertaining, if nothing else.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, if you want to compete with Vince, and you say, okay, we're going to go primetime on Tuesday. No, you're not competing with Vince. You got to go on Monday.
Or Thursday, but I think that dominantly you would probably want to go against the flagship show.
You want to, if you want to take on the boss, you got to suck it up, and you got to go to Raw. I mean, that's the only way anyone ever, even albeit briefly, defeated Vince.
Right.
The only way it's ever happened.
Yeah. I mean, you have. Sorry to be eating. You have to take it all the way if you're going to go ahead and try to be a competitive company. If you're going to be an alternative, that's fine, but you also have to realize what's good fiscally for your company if you're going to be the alternative company. In other words, well, yeah, it's great that they're on FSN, but they're on 4 o'clock on Friday afternoons, and quite frankly, that's an okay spot, but it's not really a spot where kids can...
Well, you got to remember, it's not even on that time slot most networks. Remember, I get it and it's not even a constant time slot. It's 12 o'clock on HTS or 2 p.m. Of course, this is at night.
It's not constant in most markets. The Baltimore market, it's even worse than I am. Sometimes it's on 3 o'clock in the morning. A lot of people assume, they're always...
Well, you know why that is, right? Well, that's because every and they even said it. They said FSN and your local sports network, because not everybody gets FSN. But when you do this, when you have this kind of a show on a sports show, if there's a baseball game that day, guess what's getting pushed aside?
Yeah, well, and not even that. One time TNA was canceled because of a Baltimore Orioles replay.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's how far down the thing is, but because people will actually stay up and watch it, they stop doing that. But the thing is, it's going to be, this isn't a secure time slot. This isn't like Raw where it's on everywhere at this time, and you're not going to move it, or you're going to get sued. This is...
If not sued, then they're going to piss a lot of your fan base off.
Yeah, and this is...
I mean, now that we're on the radio, the common structure is we have to be the same place every week at the same time. And that's just how, get people to come back. Oh, well, there's a wrestling show on Tuesday at 7. I better listen,
Well, that's a big reason in the when Vince moved to Spike TV, because he didn't want to get preempted by tennis, because he knew that to gain the constant audience, he needed to be at the same time on every week.
Well, tennis and that stupid dog show. Yeah, that stupid dog show.
I can't imagine the dog show getting higher ratings than Raw.
Especially at, say, the height of 1999.
Yeah.
They preempted Raw for the dog show, and Nitro was unopposed, and I'm just trying to figure out...
Raw won easily.
What?
Raw won.
What do you mean?
Like, when it was preempted for the dog show, it was still the highest rated show on cable TV, and it was preempted, and it was on like 1 o'clock at night.
Yep. But I remember that, I think it actually beat Nitro, and it was on at 1 o'clock at night or something, late like that. And that was like, just sad.
I mean, that was kind of an indictment of the product at the time, but, I mean, once again, he's right. I mean, you need TV to push things, and I just want to ask the house show question, because really, it's a good idea, but he's right. You need TV to sell the arena shows.
Well, you have to have that audience. You have to have, example, say they decided they were going to come to, what's the name of your city in Virginia?
Which one? I reside in many ones, but Richmond's where they normally come to.
Okay, let's say that they decide, okay, TNA is going to come and they're going to do a house show at Richmond Arena in Virginia, okay? Whatever it might be called. And suppose, they do a couple radio advertisements for it, which I'm not even sure they'd be wise enough to do sometimes. But do a couple radio advertisements for it, maybe do an interview with a local radio show. How many people you honestly think would show up regarding how well-known TNA is or is not?
Well, I mean, that's a great point. The thing is, I don't even know what's going on in a lot of things with TNA, and I cover the wrestling industry.
Right.
I mean, that's like saying, and God forbid this was never happened, but if Bob Costas didn't know when the Patriots Colts game was going to be on. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, that obviously would never happen, but I mean, that's how ridiculous this would sound in the real world, because I mean, if I don't know when the product or when certain things...
7 people pick to live in a house to find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real.
That came out of nowhere?
You said the real world. And
I got you.
I'm sorry, I'm a little spacey today. Well, always, but you know what I mean.
So, I mean, how is a casual fan who doesn't cover the industry supposed to even know about this?
Well, I mean, that's the problem. That's what they've struggled with. Back when they had pay-per-view, and I know financially I understand why it was stopped. I'm not ignorant enough not to understand why. But let's talk about the product at least. The product was so much better because you had the platform to build week to week. And right now, maybe what I'm trying to say here is maybe if they got a 2-hour time slot and actually was able to fill an hour and a half of it with actual programming, they'd have the platform where they can build week to week and compete. They have talent. They have AJ. They have Christopher Daniels. They have Jeff Hardy. They have probably Matt Hardy coming soon. They probably have. They have.
I mean, they have guys that are proven draws in the past. I mean, not huge draws, but Jarrett was a WCW champion. Nash. I mean, duh. The Hardy Boys almost rivaled some of the top singles wrestlers during their peak in the WWF in terms of popularity and merchandise sold.
Yep.
You know, these are guys that, if exposed and promoted correctly, I mean, they can be made of interest. But the thing is, and I disagree with you on the. I know you understand why the pay-per-views is done. I think it was a great idea to end it. I don't think it was a great idea to do what they're doing now, but. Once again, the 2-hour time slot on a good network, on a solid network that will stand behind them, is a great idea, and that's one of the big reasons WCW succeeded, because Turner, their backer, and give Bob Carter and Dixie Carter a lot of credit. They've been very patient with them. They've been very, they're like, okay, this can make us big dividends in the future if we're just patient with it. A lot of people are like, results now. They're not investing in anything.
Well,
this is a big investment for them.
One thing I want to point people to go listen to is the Pat Kenny interview on our website. That was right before you joined us, but Pat Kenny discussed pretty much in detail that it's going to take a while for a wrestling company that hopes to be anything big to actually turn a profit, because you have to pay the production costs, because you have to pay to be on television before networks will come to you offering you money to air your shows. You have to do all this stuff to create your name and create your atmosphere and create what your show is about before you can go on to be the WWE. Even Vince. Everybody remembers that Vince changed the business in the 80s, but he wasn't really making money in 84 and 85. He was borrowing a lot of money, and he was lucky if he broke even. It was only...
He bought time from all the TV stations.
Yeah. And then eventually, when they saw how great and well-produced his product was, and they had their local wrestling that was not that well-produced and not that great, they said, well, how do we get yours? There you go.
Well, that's exactly it, and that's a huge reason why the XWF failed and a lot of these promotions failed. Like you said, you can't just jump into this. I don't care who you have. I don't care if you have Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, Bill Goldberg. I don't care who you have. Once again, like you said, you need to have a base.
It goes
a base audience, and you need to have a base storyline. You can't just jump in and do something out of nowhere, because nobody's going to get it. Nobody's going to be with it. I probably wouldn't even watch it.
I watched it if Hogan was there, but that's like the rarity.
But the thing is, TNA right now, they're building their base. They've been around for 3 years. They couldn't just start up. Even if they had the capital, they couldn't just start up. And Turner, he didn't do it overnight. When he bought it, that was in the late 80s. He built up, and Nitro came on in 95 because he built up the base. You can't just start it without having existing.
You know what's awkward about that? And I've always been thinking about this, and I'm writing this portion for the website because we're going to do a show devoted to the death of WCW, or the rise and fall of WCW, so we don't get sued for stealing Mr. Artie Reynolds' phrase. But where was I going with this?
You're writing something.
Oh, yes, I'm writing this, and I'm trying to figure out, in watching old tapes, when exactly did they stop calling it the NWA and start calling it WCW?
Well,
because it was awkward. There was times when I'll be watching it and they'll be calling it WCW, but the ring apron will say NWA. And there's times where they say, we're back on the NWA, and the ring apron says WCW.
Well, think about it when the TNA stopped calling themselves NWA TNA. Think about it like that, how it gradually happened. But the big thing that happened was the NWA promoters didn't want to. They wanted to change the title. They wanted to change hands, and they didn't okay it. And Bischoff didn't okay it with the committee. So they said, you know what, you can't use our title on your show. So they gave the NWA title like Tatsumi Fujimi in Japan or something, and Flair or someone else, or Sting, I can't remember who, got the WCW title. And
Yep.
that happened about 93.
Yep.
I mean, so that it was really confusing, but that was one of the final pieces of the puzzle to make WCW its own entity.
Mm-hmm. And it was only then, and it was in 93, 94 when they actually started selecting people for their roster that the fans knew from the WWE, or WWF at the time, and knew that by getting them, they could advance their potential ratings.
That's what TNA is doing now. They're getting they get Nash, Jeff Hardy.
And this could just be the beginning, I mean, in WCW 93, they had just gotten Big Boss Man. You know, they got Big Boss Man and a couple others, Nails, and a couple others to come over. Well, that's like your, I don't know, let's give an example. I don't even know who, from WWE. What?
Dudley's.
Yeah, that's like your WWE's coming over. That's like a couple of old WWE guys coming over to TNA now. Well, it was really when the big dogs came over was '94 when you had Hogan come over, and of course his gang of friends came over with them, like Honky Tonk Man and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and eventually Randy Savage. I mean, those are some big names to throw into the pool.
Well, yeah, I agree. That was definitely, that put them on the map. And the thing is, unfortunately, at the time, Hogan was still able to compete. Hogan was able to work a full schedule, and Hogan was still very fresh in the mainstream's mind. At this point, unfortunately, people are so stuck in the idea that, well, we can only get Hogan. There's one guy, and he's going to be about as expensive as Hogan. He's going to be about as hard to get as Hogan, and he's probably going to equal the same numbers as Hogan. If they ever get that big time slot, what they've got to do is get a huge financial backer, and I've said this before, I know how impossible it sounds, but this would equal success. Put all the money you have and bring in The Rock. Because the fact is, he is what Hogan was in '94, and he could be what Hogan was to WCW to TNA. Because the thing is, he's a movie star, he's very well known to the mainstream public, and he's going to bring in casual fans.
And you know what else the benefit of having him is? That TNA does not run that many shows.
Yeah, so Rock could do,
Rock could be on all the shows, which would only mean maybe one or two a week. I mean, maybe just one a week, or maybe one even every other week.
Yeah.
And he could be there.
You remember Hogan certainly wasn't on every week.
No, he was not.
I mean, and that was fine because it worked out. But the thing, granted, I'm not saying this is going to happen or even likely. I'm saying, though, if they ever get a spot and they just want to make a big impact, I mean, this would be the equivalent of Hogan in '94 to WCW, because this is that mainstream wrestler now. I mean, there aren't too many of them. In fact, I think there's about two, Hogan and Rock. And you know, that would be the way that I would think. It would cost a lot of money, like it did with Hogan, but it would give your promotion credibility, and credibility is the name of the game.
Smell what the Rock is cooking. Yeah, I mean, they could do some marketing with him, and now that he owns his name, he's even more valuable.
Yeah, I mean.
Anyway, why don't we take this little conversation over to Raw?
I'll believe it when I see it.
What?
Triple H being gone.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm right. Hold on a second here. Guys, I think we're pretty accurate when we say the fact is they're not going to have that match at the pay-per-view, whoever wins the Gold Rush tournament. It's going to be on the draft Raw, which I assume is coming up a week from Monday.
Yeah, and I can, granted, and I'll say this, and this has really nothing to do with what we just said, but I've been really hard on Batista, but he does get big reactions. I mean, I've been as critical as anyone really to Batista, probably even more so than James, but I mean, he is getting very big reactions. I'll give him that.
He's getting okay reactions, and I actually, despite what the internet says, I actually have enjoyed his act the past week and a half, past 2 weeks, you know.
It's always rough with the new champion for that. I mean, there's very few guys, and off the top of my head, Hogan, Austin, and Hart are the only guys who really jump out as being first-time champions that just, you know, went off. You know, you didn't really need to help Batista. You know, he's a normal guy. I mean, it's where wrestlers go. He's got the title. He's still getting used to it. Still getting used to being that guy. You know.
I'm not sure if that's. I mean, he might not ever get to the level of Triple H or The Rock. But
I don't think there's any question about that he won't get there.
But people just need to relax a little bit and just enjoy the shows. I mean, it's obvious when you watch the show right now that they're on cruise control. They're on cruise control until the draft, when they can really start to let things happen, because they can't start many feuds right now.
I personally think the company's on cruise control until about 2008.
No, I don't think that's true.
No, I think Vince is waiting for the time when he gets that next big, because he doesn't have the next big idea. I mean, I've always calculated, because regardless of what everybody say, the wrestling business is cyclical. And there is actually a certain time period, about 4 years for the peak of a boom period, and the rest is down cycle. And around 2008 will be the next boom period. But
it'll especially be possible that 2008 will be the next boom period, especially if Turner gets back in the game next year.
Are you serious or just mocking someone?
No, I'm serious. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, I hope that happens. I hope anything happens. But at this point, Batista, go ahead. I mean, he's been doing okay.
Well, good. God bless him for trying. He's been entertaining. I actually found him funny this week.
I think the biggest problem with Batista is unreal expectations. People are saying, when he got that big 4.0 rating on when he powerbombed Triple H, people are saying, well, I think this guy could be the biggest star since The Rock and Stone Cold. What? No. I mean, he can be a big star, but he's not gonna revolutionize the business and bring you 7s and 6s.
Well, I always find it difficult to put The Rock and Austin in the same level. I think The Rock is far better than Austin. But
in the ring or what?
I mean, as a character, Austin needed.
I think as far as freshening up your character, I think Austin, except when he did the what thing, which was stupid. I think Rock, whenever he got stale, like when he was saying the same thing, people booed him, and instead of resting on that, he just kind of made a completely new act for him, and it worked. I think he's always more fresh than Austin. That makes you. I mean.
What I mean by that is, granted, I think Austin's very talented, and it took somebody talented to do it. I just don't think it was him that got over so much as the great booking of what to do with him.
Well, you can say that about every major star. But the fact remains, if you put them in the ring, the fans would always boo Rock and cheer Austin for some reason. And they always did.
I don't know why that is. Yeah, that's a good point. I personally just never got into Austin.
But I mean, I just remembered it because I think, I don't know. I mean, obviously Rock has transitioned to the mainstream much better than Austin has. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He's the best crossover star in wrestling of all time, probably. And, but the fact is, in the ring, for some reason, and I don't know what that is, but they would always turn on Rock and they'd cheer Austin. I don't know what it was.
Well, they turned on The Rock a lot.
They did. Well, there was a lot of that "we're entitled to have you here" attitude that I really dislike.
Well, no.
Hogan or Rock or anyone leaves the business. I mean, they're never ours, guys. They're their own people. And
yeah. I disagree with that.
What?
If I were in the arena when he was fighting Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam 2002,
oh, you mean when he won the title?
I would have been booing just the same.
I'm just saying though, but the thing is, he doesn't owe us anything.
No,
none of them do.
I mean, of course not. But I'm just saying.
Was I against him winning the title for the 7th time? Yeah, of course, because he wasn't going to be there full time. I'm against anyone who wins the title and isn't there full time. But the fact is, there were a lot of fans after that, and to this day say, "Well, Rock sold out." Well, what the hell does he have left to do?
I hate when they say people sold out, especially in wrestling. Wrestling is...
He's main evented the WrestleMania more times than anyone would ever dream of. He's won the world title massively amount of times. He's wrestled everybody there is to wrestle. I mean, we don't really need him anymore.
No, and it's not just that we don't need him anymore. It's just that this is better for who he is as a person.
Yeah.
He'll be richer. He'll be probably more famous. He
doesn't have to risk. He got out when he was 30, and he can spend more time with his family.
Yeah, I mean, he's lucky. He's very lucky. God bless him.
I mean, if the wrestling business was an industry, not an industry. If it was a video game, I mean, he won.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, other than that, I thought areas on Raw were pretty good. I think it was interesting to see the La Resistance segments, though I don't know that it's a good idea to break up your only actual tag team.
Yeah, it's probably not smart. What I liked about Raw is when I saw Edge beat Shawn, which I cheered because I think, I don't think Shawn beating Edge will accomplish anything at this point. Something clicked in me, and it felt like the same, it was my mechanical heart. No, it felt like the same feeling that I got when Triple H rose to the top in '99. Like it's like Edge can be that next guy. He can be the next great heel.
Huh.
I'm not talking like a heel for. I'm talking about your next long-term heel. And I know it just felt when he was holding that briefcase up with that arrogant smile of his, and then the crowd just booing the hell out of him. It's just, I don't know. I'm like, oh, this guy could be it.
Well, that was a fair match. I thought that was a good spot as well.
Man, did he smack him in the head really hard or what?
He looked pretty good to me. He looked convincing.
Yeah, that was.
But I think the A for effort this week goes to Shawn Michaels for his promo with Maria, because he finally actually made light of the fact that she doesn't even know the name of the wrestlers.
That was pretty funny.
Did you just go on the edge? Yeah, that was pretty funny. I mean, Michaels did a good job, and eventually they're going to have to do something with Maria because she just doesn't know what the hell she's talking about.
Well, I mean, at
least with Terry Reynolds, she at least understood the business enough to pose the questions, and even if the questions were repetitive, because that's what she was being told to ask, she at least knew what the questions meant.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, back to Shawn, I think you're right. I mean, he had a great match with Shelton. I think he's been doing a really good job for a guy his age.
I don't think it's even a guy his age. I've said it a couple weeks ago, I'll say it again, I think he's better than ever. I think he's actually better than ever because when he does a high spot, and he still does do high spots, they fit better. He doesn't bounce around for just about any move, which was my only complaint about him ever, that he bounced around a little bit too much for moves that probably shouldn't have. He doesn't do that anymore, and he's been nailing those super kicks better than ever. That super kick on Edge was pretty crisp as well.
Yeah. And
the Shelton one was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, well, that was one of the better ones I've ever seen of all time.
That was a double whammy because, like I said, like I keep saying, not only did he jump right into the foot, but the way his body snapped back, he slammed it to the mat pretty good. And that still will knock the air out of you.
I noticed, and, before I get on my next point, I'm going to say that personally I disagree about Shawn being better than ever, but that's just my opinion. I will say two things. Muhammad Hassan, to me, finally seemed like a star this week.
I think they're doing the right thing with him.
I said a few weeks ago to James off the air, I said, whenever I see a gimmick character like Eugene or Muhammad Hassan, I don't consider them real wrestlers. It's nothing against the person themselves, it's just they're so hidden behind a gimmick, and it's hard for me to take them seriously. This week, seeing him standing in the suit, head cocked back, I don't know. It wasn't anything tangible. It's just like, well, he's got it. The other thing that I saw that is more of a note that I don't really want to say is Jericho came out and it just felt like, Hassan's a bigger star than Jericho is.
So Hassan's a bigger star than Jericho is. Well, unfortunately, that's not a reflection on Jericho. That's a reflection on the fact that you just can't. All right, what I wrote to Dave Scherer of PWInsider.com, we're not going to get into a big 15-minute discussion about PW Insider because I love those guys.
Well,
No. What I want to say, though, and this is the honest truth, I think that there's a window of opportunity for everybody, like you say, and for some reason Jericho seems to have 9 lives because they keep slamming the window on his fingers.
Yeah, and Jericho is one of the people that seems to have 8 and they like 40 chances and they keep blowing it with him.
I mean, their last chance with him was the Intercontinental title match, which granted he's above the Intercontinental title in most fans' eyes, but they seem to really want him to defeat Shelton. And that didn't happen. And when that didn't happen, I think the fans just figured, well, that's it. They're not doing anything with him. I think the fans are smart enough to realize, well, he can't beat Shelton. They faced each other 5 times now.
Yeah.
And he can't beat the Intercontinental champion. Maybe he's not above the Intercontinental title. Maybe he's below it.
Well, you're only as good as you're promoted to be. Jericho's been promoted as being less than most of the talent for so long that you can't help but believe it. And I have the utmost respect for Chris Jericho. We all know that. It's tough to say he's one of my favorite wrestlers. Nothing against Chris Jericho. It's just the way he's been promoted. And he'll never say it while he's employed, but he knows it. Jericho's very talented. They ruined his look. They ruined his motivation. They ruined his fire, his drive. I don't know what else they can do to this guy. Really, it's sad. It is very sad what is happening to him.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is, the good thing about it is he's actually got some ducks in the pond for when he's out of wrestling.
Yeah.
And that is that
he seems to enjoy his music.
he enjoys his music. He's got a radio show now on XM radio, so he's set. I mean, he pretty much can live off that, and he doesn't have to work.
He's got to deal with VH1. He's on the specials all the time.
Yeah, so that might be WWE coordinated.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they seem to actually like the mainstream. He transfers well into the mainstream, and obviously he came to the WWE as the sport's biggest free agent. Helped them obliterate Raw. I mean Nitro with a huge rating thing. And you're like, wow, this guy. People are watching him, so let's not promote him very well. I don't know. It just seems kind of stupid to me.
Well, I can't quite figure out. The only thing that I can think of is maybe it's because he was a WCW creation.
Well, it's almost, and discounting his first year and a half in the company, there's no question in my mind that he's been promoted well worse than WCW.
Well, I mean, we discussed WCW with him when we had him on the show, and one of the things we discussed with him was just, you did so many funny things, and he seemed to appreciate the fact that we remembered the things like the Library of Congress and such.
Yeah, that was great.
And that was funny. And I remember, like, the conspiracy theory, he held that sign up, and I remember he walked around and he stood in the streets holding up the conspiracy thing.
Drawing cruiserweight champion of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he had some funny stuff. And whose idea was most of that stuff? His own. Well, that was just okay, we have 15 minutes for you to fill, go out there and do it.
When in 1999 and 2000, during my freshman year in high school, I remember, obviously, this is when The Rock was huge, so, the biggest shirts you saw were Rock shirts. The second biggest, and not too far behind, was Chris Jericho. There was Y2J shirts all over the place. People went, because everybody would talk about wrestling back then, because it was in the boom period, and, they loved Jericho. And he's one person, he's a person who does draw, he does equal ratings when promoted correctly, and he's a great interview. He's a great in-ring talent. He's a guy that has that combination. He has that four-pronged attack of all those things going for him. He brings something to the table that a lot of people, I think he's very much like Shawn Michaels in that respect, in the fact that he can do all that stuff, but they just don't seem to use him.
No, I mean, the bottom line is once this WWE run is over for him, and unfortunately I think that's going to be sooner than later, maybe he can go to TNA or go work the indies and, first of all, make good money and maybe make some leeways for other companies. Maybe they can use him to an extent where he'd be beneficial to the company as well as himself looking good as well.
I mean, this is a guy who could have done pretty much anything you want in life. He could have been a hockey player. He could have been a rock star. In fact, he is a rock star right now. But, I mean, he chose to be a wrestler. He was great in that, and I hate talking about him in the past tense, but fortunately, I just feel like that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
But let's get on a lighter note. What do we got for lighter notes?
Man, did that segment with Stacy suck?
I fast-forwarded through it.
That's a good idea. Next up was, what was next? The main, it might have been one of the two main events. Kane versus Benoit was an okay match, but Benoit sold the fact that he had a concussion like a champ.
Well, yeah, I still think since Benoit beat Triple H, Benoit should have gone to the finals, but obviously what they're going to do next week with Kane and Edge is, I see why they're doing it. I'm just saying, I think, going back to last week when Benoit beat Triple H, I think that was a great idea because you can promote Benoit as that guy that always has Triple H's number. And yeah, it just makes Benoit seem that much stronger.
Somebody at the station was mad because they felt it should have been HBK against Benoit because they want to see that match again. And the bottom line just doesn't make sense for the booking. That's all.
No, it doesn't. I mean, granted, they work well together. That Showdown in the Desert match, I think they were given about a half an hour. I mean, an incredible match. Probably one of the better Raw main events I've ever seen. They work really well together. It's almost... I don't want to compare it to this feud because comparing something to something else always makes it seem less than, but it was almost like watching a Shawn Michaels match. And
Benoit has that Bret Hart quality to him.
Yeah, I mean, he was trained by Stu. Yeah, I know it, guys. And So you know, they work very well together, and it was great. But you're right. I mean, booking, it doesn't make sense.
It wouldn't have made sense for that, and I knew what they were going to do. I thought maybe they would give Benoit the win, though, and have Triple H try to screw Batista the same way Batista screwed him.
Yeah.
Like holding the rope from him and everything.
Well, I mean...
But then that would have killed Benoit because, of course, Batista would have overcame the odds. And as we saw in London when he beat Christian, him overcoming the odds does not do anything for the other guy.
Yeah, plus, as we saw in the... I don't know. I think Benoit would be cheered over Batista.
I think so.
Like
I think most faces, unfortunately, I think most faces would get cheered over Batista.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go with, the reason Goldberg was cheered over a lot of people for a while was because he was a monster. You can't promote the big guy as a sympathetic guy. I mean, you can't do that. You can promote Benoit or Shawn Michaels or Bret Hart as the guy who's got to overcome the odds as the underdog, but you can't do it with Batista or Goldberg or Hogan or, you know, Giant or anyone like that because they're big, they're huge. They are the favorites to win.
Yep. I think Hogan was lesser of that extent though, because usually he let the other guy get the finisher on him.
Yeah, he did, but you know, he did in the end. He did have to be impervious to them.
Yes, true. I mean, he did take the finisher and he sold it for a second and he kicked out at 2, and that was it. I mean.
Even though you saw it coming 45 minutes later. I mean, early.
What do you mean by that?
I just remember it could have been so much more dramatic because Hogan doesn't know how to, I mean, he just can't, I've never seen him do a dramatic shoulder up right before the referee's hand goes down to 3.
Uh-huh.
And at WrestleMania 5, I remember Savage hits the elbow. And 1, 2, Hogan's feet are in the air massively, and you can see him about to kick out. So you're like, oh, he's kicking out. I would have liked to see the shoulder up right before 3 and then the Hulk up.
The only thing is you don't go flying from just throwing your shoulder up.
Yeah, I understand, but I just think it would have made it more dramatic if you had been like, is he going to get him?
Yeah. Well, what does SmackDown have to do to improve?
I think they've been massively improving. I think they're building up their own stars. I think Carlito's a fantastic start.
He needs a finisher.
What?
He needs a finisher.
You're damn right he does.
That's the one thing that we discussed on the live show. I can't figure out what his finisher is. I mean, in your game...
They say modified swinging neck breaker and cool DDT.
That's what I said. I said, your game says cool DDT, but that doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, he's going to have an established finisher. I agree.
And even when he beat Bob Holly, he beat him with a backslide with his feet on the ropes.
Yeah. They're going to have, I mean, they're building up their own nest of characters. They got JBL, who's a very strong character, and is very much over as a heel, probably the most over heel on that brand. They got Carlito, a young up-and-coming talent with a lot of talent. They got Angle, who has a large appeal to fans who like technical wrestling. Cena is very, very over as the champion. In fact, I was signed online the other day, and on AOL, they had an advertisement for John Cena. It's the first time I've seen a wrestler advertised since The Rock. I mean,
that's inaccurate. There's one other person that's been advertised.
Who?
When the game Day of Reckoning came out for GameCube,
yeah,
they had Rey Mysterio on the front page, which was
AOL?
Yes, which was shocking.
Well, this is the first time a superstar that matters. No. Well, I said this is the first time I've seen a guy promote, and he's really been all over the place. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure he gets the biggest reaction. I mean, he's much more over than Batista is, but so he's succeeding very well as champion. Who else we got on that brand?
See, oddly, I think they'd cheer Batista over John Cena.
What?
Oddly, I think they'd cheer Batista over John Cena.
I don't. I mean, Cena got the bigger reaction at the Rumble. I think they cheer Cena over him. I think it's smart to keep him against. I think it's going to be a very smart feud for Batista and Edge because I don't think anyone's going to cheer Edge really.
They got to keep him out of the ring with baby faces.
Who? Batista? Yes,
yes.
Definitely.
Because if they get a mixed reaction, they're in trouble.
Yeah, because or guys like if you put him against the ring with a guy like Christian or Carlito, who are they're heels, but the crowd's really into them, and they're probably going to get cheered over. I mean, guys like that, you need to keep them out of the ring. You need to put them in the ring like Triple H and Edge, and you need to protect them because the Christian experiment, Christian was being the biggest wuss in the world, and the fans were chanting, "Let's go Christian."
Well, that's because people like his character.
Yeah.
I think what they got to do next is he's got to beat Flair, first of all.
Yeah, that's academic, but you never know with this booking committee.
This
is something that I can really get into because I hate Flair and I love Christian, so I'm going to be marking out and watching Christian kick the crap out of Flair.
I mean, and they built that feud up so very cleverly. That's actually one of the better booking jobs they've done in a while.
It is.
And plus, they also making you want it by not having the match happen right away.
Yeah, making a week to promote it, which is smart.
Giving you that week to think, well, I hope he kills Flair,
Well, that's just for us. I think Flair's being promoted as the face here.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're trying to turn him face, and I think what they might do, and unfortunately, is they might have him somehow butter up with Batista, and then turn on him at whatever pay-per-view when he fights Triple H. Which would just be so right back to square one,
Remember in October when Orton was like, "Love, don't take that seat from the back seat to Triple H," and then everybody was like, and everybody was cheering for Flair because they obviously wanted him to be face, and then he turned on Orton, and everybody was really depressed afterwards.
Yeah, they're just like, why is he stuck in the same thing again? First of all, I don't like Flair, and I don't really want him to be a face, but I just want him to have his last run and go. So, I mean, that's why I'm hoping they turn him face, because if they turn him face, that's probably...
Well, fans want him to be face. I mean, I'm not going to say anything else.
Right. I mean, they turn him face, let him go. Turn him face, let him have his last run, maybe feud with Triple H, and then let him, if not let him go for good, then give him some time off, and, I'm just tired of seeing him.
Yeah, I am too. He doesn't really lend any credibility to the product.
No. Actually, here, it's really scary to think that Ric Flair can beat Tyson Tomko when Tyson Tomko looks like a Greek god, and Flair looks like, quite frankly, he has not seen the inside of a gym in 10 years.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, Flair trashed Foley in his book, and he says, seeing the inside of a gym was used to be a requirement for the professional wrestler. Well, at this point, Rick, I think Mick's probably in better shape than you are. And, I mean, Mick's never been prided on his physical appearance. I mean, Flair just...
There's a reason why Mick Foley always wore a T-shirt.
Yeah, but I mean, he never claimed to have anything. But he was in very good shape in his lowest weight in like 10 years at Backlash against Orton.
He looked good.
And of course, Flair looked like the Emperor against Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah, he looked terrible, man.
And Shelton Benjamin says, "I will not turn." And he's like, "I'm afraid you're friends." The shield generator will be quite operational.
Goodbye, young man.
Goodbye, young man. He's like a combination of the Professor, the melty face from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the Emperor. By the way, guys, you can see Ric Flair in theaters in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, when it comes out.
Really?
No, I was just making a joke because the Emperor's in that.
Oh, I knew that. I actually did.
But seriously, look at Flair's face. Look how his cheeks are melting down, and then look at the Emperor. I mean, they could save a lot on makeup and having Ian McDermott take a hiatus and just have Flair play him.
Does the Emperor ever say woo?
No, but it's tough to understand him sometimes, and that'd be great for Flair because I can't understand a word he says. Nevertheless, he's got great mic skills.
Champ, you gotta stay here. You can't go, Champ. Get in the car, Rick. I can't do that. I gotta stay here and talk to Bischoff. Well, then I'm leaving.
I remember in his book he complained about how Bischoff was he's like Bischoff made me lose to Bret Hart. I mean, he was talking like I was an opener.
Like what?
He complained because he's like, Bischoff was a jerk. He made me lose to Bret Hart.
Huh. Well, it's not like he hadn't done it before. I mean, he lost the WWE title to Bret.
Yeah, at a house show.
At a house show, because Vince obviously knew that Flair could not only draw a buy rate, but he also would do great ratings.
Oh my God!
I mean, Vince obviously just lost complete faith in Flair because he was not
able to carry the load of Hogan. Now, granted, that's an unfair thing to try to even put anybody to hold, but he wasn't able to hold that load, regardless of what the internet will tell you.
He couldn't even hold the load for fucking Warrior.
That's a fair point.
He couldn't hold the load for Undertaker. Undertaker was drawing higher ratings, and the guy was champion for like a month, or not even, for like a week.
Flair won the belt twice, and
he never headlined a pay-per-view as a champion.
Nope, and he wasn't even on the card at SummerSlam '92.
He was in the background.
Yeah, he just came to the ring. He came to the ring during the Savage match with Perfect.
No, with Savage and
Yeah, but Perfect was his whatever. What do they call him? Consultant, something?
Yeah, he was the
executive consultant. Yeah, I love that angle.
But
it was interesting to see that the clip of Jerry Lawler and Kurt Hennig last night on Raw. It's a special, reminder. It's a good plug for 24/7, and it was a good thing. They should do more of that, mentioning 18 years ago to the day, or this day in WWE history. I like that stuff.
Here's what I think is funny.
They should do like a little segment, actually. This day in WWE history, anytime that they actually have anything to play, and they can play it, and they can use it to promote 24/7.
Yeah. But here's what I find funny about Flair. Survivor Series 1992. Brett's the champion. There's no real main eventers left. I mean, Hogan's gone. Savage is kind of, he's involved with a feud. And then you'd think Flair would be the guy. No, does he go with Flair? No, the guy who Brett just went out. No, he goes with an unproven mid-carder, Shawn Michaels.
Right.
That's how little faith that Vince had in Flair, and quite frankly, I don't think that he would have had a better match with Brett.
No, they had a really good match. That's actually one of their better matches.
Yeah, that was a good one.
They went on to have some real good matches. They had the first ladder match too.
Yeah, well, the first ladder match on WWF TV.
WWF. Well, yeah. There was
in 1972.
Yes, and there was several ladder matches in Stampede Wrestling.
Well, yeah, that's where he invented it.
Right. Who's that?
Dan Crawford.
Does he get mad when Scott Hall says that he invented it?
Probably. I don't know. It looks like the guy who invented it, Dan Crawford, looks like a lumberjack. He's got this big bushy beard.
I should create a lumberjack match for him. Wait a minute, they already exist.
All right, well, let's wrap this up.
It's your turn.
All right, let me wrap this up. Well, we hope you enjoyed the Dusty Rhodes interview, and
the road, if you will.
And hopefully you'll get to check out. We got like the Jimmy Hart, the Al Snow. Well, we got a load of interviews this week. Jamie Noble.
We also potentially have John Cena coming up next week, as well as who else do we have? We have a couple others booked, don't we?
Yeah, well, obviously Cena's the big name. We've currently got the WWE Champion who's coming on the interactive interview.
Test as well, and probably Matt Hardy. Probably Matt Hardy. We have Bill Apter wants to come back on the show. We got a lot going on.
To be.
We are the wrestling one nights. We're the stop for all wrestlers. They got to stop.
You're one-stop shop for WWF news. I'm just kidding.
WWE
I'm just kidding, David.
David who?
Sharer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
don't you think that Slimer from not Slimer? What was the brain's name from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Krang. Don't you think Krang going? Oh, Sarah! Would it be kind of creepy? Dave Sarah, PWSire.com.
Before it gets too crazy. All right.
Sarah!
Day, and enjoy more from the interactive interview.
What song?
What song? How about
Dave Sarah?
We did Jukebox Hero recently.